So today's topics, image manipulations. So we're going to look at modifying images and how they're stored in memory. We're going to modify an image in a function, which is kind of similar to what we did here, right? This is what we did here. We modified that. Except we're going to look beneath the scenes to kind of see what's really happening, like really what's happening with this image thing in Python. And then this last part, modifying a new image in a function, we're going to create brand new images. And so really what we're looking at, especially in the middle part here, is how stuff really works with images, how kind of the internals work with images. So first, let's actually talk about modifying images. And let me get idle up and running. And I want to open an existing file that has some code. So let's go grab it. It's only a couple of lines, but better than typing it all in. This is modify image. Okay, so we have this code here. So I want to look at images again, and I want to see how Python stores this information in memory. And so we have this tuple here for R, 255.00. That's just going to be the color red. We have another tuple, 255, 255.0. Remember, that's red and green. Red and green combined is yellow. It's just assigning those to global variables. And then we have a list of lists, right? That's what this is. This is a global images, which is 2 rows. In the first row, we have red, yellow, red. And in the second row, we have yellow, red, yellow. So we have 2 rows. And if we run this, we can now print out the red tuple, the yellow tuple, and we can print out the global image values, right? So we have, what do we have here? Here's the first row here. Here's the second row here, giving us a 2D list or a list of lists. And then we have all those values inside of it. So red, yellow, red, yellow, red, yellow, just as it was described. Let's take a look at this in Python now. See what this code does in Python. So when this code runs, when it runs, we have R, and R is a reference, right? R is a tuple. It's just a reference to some tuple that's in memory, right? That's a tuple for the red color. And what we're saying here is we have a tuple with 3 values in Python's memory. Now it's more complicated than this, but for now we're just going to draw it like that because it's simpler. And then Y is a reference to a tuple in memory, 255, 255, 0, right? That's what's in there. So we have these 2 tuples in memory. And then we create globe image, so a global image. And globe image, if we represent what globe image is, let me give myself a little more room here. Globe image is a reference I know my writing and drawing is bad, but it didn't have to do that, did it? So globe image is a reference to a list. So it's a reference to a list with 2 elements in it. There's a list and there's a list, but it's only 2 elements. But each of those elements, so the first element, is a reference to another list. That list has 3 elements in it. And the second list is a reference to a list that also has 3 elements in it. So So that's what global image is creating. It's creating a list of lists. So we have a list of two items, and those two items are also lists that contains 3 values. And then what is actually inside of the first one? If we look at it, and this is going to get pretty ugly, but let's draw it. So the first one is red, right? It's red, yellow, red. And so really what it is it's a reference to the red. And the second one is a reference to the yellow. If I keep drawing this whole thing out, we're going to have arrows everywhere, and it's going to get very overwhelming and very distracting and very messy, and we're not really going to be seeing everything that's happening here. So instead of putting the arrows for the pixels, so for those values, I'm going to use colors instead. I just want to use colors to kind of represent what's happening here. And so I'm using a red dot to represent the red tuple. So this is the red dot. And we have 2 red dots in the top row, right? Red, yellow, red. And then in the middle here, we have yellow, which is this yellow dot. So you can think of those as references to those particular colors. And we're just doing that to make this image much easier to work with. And now the global is a list of 2 elements and the second element is also a list that has yellow at the front and the back, and it has red in the middle. So that's what this is going to look like in Python's memory without all the crazy lines. And remember, this is itself a list, right? This is a list that has height of 2 and width of 3, which is kind of how we've been representing our images. And if we were to look and see how we do an update, remember, we can do an update. So let's go back to idle. And if we type globe image, bracket 1 gives us the second element. Bracket 2 gives us the third element of the last tuple. We set that to 0, 0, 255, which is blue, right? That's the blue. If I run that, and then I change, or now you see what that changed, we notice that the first list is the same as up here. In the second list, the first element's the same, the second element's the same, but this last element, which is where the bracket 2 is not the same anymore. It has turned to this blue color. And if we think about what actually happened here, so this is 0, 1, and this is 0, 1, and 2. We change the value in number 2. And really what did we do? We actually created a new tuple 0, 0, 255. Again, that's what it would look like in Python. I don't want to draw out the arrows. So we're just going to represent the blue tuple with a blue circle. It's just easier for us to visualize using that blue circle instead of the arrow to the tuple. And so after we do the update, we've modified that particular pixel in the image, right? This is what it's going to look like in Python's memory. And that's what a simple update to an image looks like. Now, that's pretty simple. And by the way, there's a reason we do all these pictures. We actually hopefully want you all to learn how to draw these pictures yourself. In future classes, you will be doing it. And so it's a good idea to practice it.